I think she must be incredibly jealous of the fact that Prince Harry can garner some of the positive headlines while she's being torn apart by the Hollywood Reporter and everybody going LOL at Us Weekly magazine. Like, this has got to be, is this a parody? This has got to be a joke.
He is causing issues at home. They are both obsessed with their reputation. He knows that his wife is dragging him down professionally, and that takes a toll. We do now have confirmation from People magazine that Harry is effectively going to go back to being a pseudo-royal, so he should never have left the royal family, and that Meghan is just going to focus on making money.
What it is a blueprint for a professional divorce. It could bleed into other aspects of their life, and that is creating a real strain on their relationship. He loathes the idea of chasing stardom with Netflix and Spotify, but this is Meghan Markle making her dreams come true.
Kinsey Schofield, how does Meghan Markle have the front to tell young children that she is the most bullied woman in the world when actually she's one of the public figures in the world who has been most accused of bullying? You think this is gaslighting, right?
Absolutely. But did you know, my favorite part of the story is that her team tried to deny this line on the same day that it came out. And to me, that's just absolutely insane, because in 2020 on a teens podcast, where again, this is a woman talking to Woe Is Me. In 2020, she told a teens podcast that she was the most trolled person in the world, male or female, trolled, bullied. It's the same thing. If she's capable of saying it once, she's capable of saying it twice. Yeah, I think that she's trying to create a diversion with the "oh, woe is me" narrative. She is so desperate to shake off this Hollywood Reporter article. And I mean, just to get into that Hollywood Reporter article, I know that that article was this big. It was how damaging it was. It was the shortest little article. It had very few details, and Meghan blew this story up in the way that she responded to it. Had they just ignored it, it would have gone away. But because she had to recruit 7 people on the payroll to defend her, because she gave Us Weekly that kind of access to her, which is so bizarre, because it's so beneath what a Duke and Duchess of Sussex should want, should be associating with. She really blew that story up. And so we are continuing to see her try to play the Mother Teresa card, showing up on green carpets for, the Children's Hospital LA, where multiple people were in that building that have torn into her and Harry on national television, like Jimmy Kimmel, and showing up at this Girls Inc. event. This is clearly a brand that she loathes, and it really gets under her skin. But it's the Streisand effect. The more that she rejects it, the more that she tries to shake it off, the more it looks like it's legit and more people hear about it. I mean, just think, Us Weekly is at the grocery store here in the United States at every checkout counter. And so people that don't read the Hollywood Reporter, a super duper inside industry publication, and didn't see that teeny tiny paragraph about how that she was a terror, are hearing that she has been accused of this thanks to Us Weekly at every kiosk at the grocery store.
Indeed, because she blew her top, didn't she? And she blew her top and she forced her team into action. And you're completely right. Actually, probably silence would have been the best PR strategy. I guess I would argue, though, Kinsey, that even though the Hollywood Reporter was small in size, it was so significant in impact. Because you have reporters like me who for years and years and years have been reporting on Meghan's bullying within the royal family. But for 12 staff members to be speaking to Hollywood Reporter, which is considered the Bible of the entertainment press in California, as you well know, it just made it so much more significant. And for the first time, Meghan knew that she wasn't able to say that people like me were just against her because we're part of the British tabloid press, or that this was somehow connected to racism, for example, because the Brits are just so backward and the royal family is just teeming with people who are colonial and did not accept that she was from a mixed race background, which is, of course, complete bull. It's always been complete bull. But the lines that she had pulled out, Kinsey, for so long no longer worked as soon as Hollywood Reporter turned on her. And the thing is, I'm happy to say it. I'm prepared to say it. Come and sue me if you want, Meghan. But you have acted like a bully. You have bullied staff members. There is so much evidence of that. And there's a reason why the Buckingham Palace report has never been released.
Exhibit A, I'd love to be in that courtroom. Exhibit A, you just hand the jury a copy of Spare, where Prince Harry talks about people sobbing on their desks. Mm-hmm. How are you not astute enough to know that what you're doing right there is validating all of those reports that it was a toxic work environment and that you are horrible leaders that do not know how to properly communicate with people? I mean, he put it in writing, black and white, right there. So I agree with you. I do think that she is not a very good leader. I think she is a terrible communicator. And I do think that a lot of it stems from insecurity. She never felt, I mean, I went back and read the Variety article, and I'm sure you avoid going back and reading things like The Cut and the Variety article because it is nauseating.
Like torture.
Yeah, yes, but I went back and I read the Variety article recently, and she talked about how she was so hyper paranoid about being replaced on Suits. She kept thinking that they were going to recast her on Suits. 108 episodes, and at one point, the writers and production were like, "Why are you so paranoid about this? Like, chill out." She has a lot of insecurity that she needs to work through. And I think envy and insecurity was really what the issue was when it came to the Princess of Wales, Katherine. Katherine wasn't a mean girl. I don't want to share my lip gloss with people I don't know. There is DNA involved in that. And I just think that she's incredibly insecure, and that is why she treats people so horribly, because she is demanding that you respect her because she wonders if she really belongs there.
What's going on with Prince Harry at the moment, Kinsey? Because it feels like he's doing anything to stay away from Montecito, and that he felt far happier when he was on his solo tour, back to doing what he used to do within the royal family, where he essentially doesn't have to do much work apart from show up and be lauded. And he seems to much prefer that to either working hard in Hollywood, certainly, but also touring with Meghan. Because if you compare his expressions and his body language in Colombia, it couldn't have been more different than when he was in New York, London, and South Africa this time around.
Yeah, I imagine that there is a lot of envy in this case too, because we grew up loving Prince Harry. Remember that shot of him getting in the car with Princess Diana? He's a little boy and he sticks his tongue out the window. I mean, he's naughty and we love him. Then he grows up and he's the one that always has a drink in his hand or smoking a cigarette. He was the bad boy, and that behavior, for some reason, we adored it. But the palace, they got him into shape and they completely rebranded him. And I do believe that he believes his own hype and thinks that people love him because of who he truly is. The reality is the palace painted a very beautiful picture of who this guy turned out to be, and I don't necessarily believe it was the truth. But because we are invested in this young man, he's an old man now, but because we were invested in him, the likelihood that we will continue to root for him is so much more deeper than Meghan Markle, who we still don't know. She's a chameleon. We don't know who she is. She just caters to whatever audience she's in front of. She feels totally self-consumed, and we're not invested in her. We're not invested in her success. She seems very disruptive. She seems very destructive. I think she must be incredibly jealous of the fact that Prince Harry can garner some of the positive headlines he has over the last few weeks. while she's got two kids on her hip being torn apart by the Hollywood Reporter and everybody going LOL at Us Weekly magazine. Like, this has got to be, is this a parody? This has got to be a joke. Everybody is fawning over Prince Harry. And that's going to cause problems at home. Ingrid Stewart even recently said people are more likely to forgive Prince Harry than they will ever forgive Meghan Markle. Harry gave Meghan that platform. She didn't have it before. And I think that she must be very envious of Prince Harry's ability to bounce back.
Well, my reporting is that it is causing issues at home because they are both obsessed with their reputation, which is very ironic because I know we've done, you can look at what they've done and think, well, you've done nothing to help it, but they do really care about their reputation. And for Harry, the honeymoon is over now because he knows that his wife is dragging him down professionally, and that takes a toll. And I found it so significant, Kinsey, that we do now have confirmation from People magazine of what people like you and people like I had been saying for a very long time, but for them to confirm it officially to People magazine via their friend and a royal insider who we just know doesn't exist because no royal insider is talking about Harry and Meghan's dynamic. They just can't stand Harry and Meghan. They're not interested in what their dynamic is working together. But I just found it so significant that, yes, we've got this confirmation that Harry is effectively going to go back to being a pseudo-royal, so he should never have left the royal family. It was an idiotic decision. And that Meghan is just going to focus on making money. Actually, she doesn't really care about the charity pursuits. But I just found confirmation of that in black and white, what they describe as a twin-track approach. Quite astonishing. It's certainly a far cry from salt and pepper working together.
What it is a blueprint for a professional divorce. And if the blueprint works really well in that arena, it could bleed into other aspects of their life. I Radar Online, and people can hate on Radar, but I'll tell you right now, I've been an incredible source for Radar. I actually broke the fact that Taylor Swift had dated Harry Styles before anybody knew it. So Radar does have some legitimate stories. And for
Absolutely.
over a year now, they have been talking about Harry and Meghan living separate lives. And most recently, they talked about the idea of them drifting apart because Harry really does miss the UK. He misses the freedom he had in the UK from judgment, being around these old friends that knew him when he was a young man and saw that evolution and didn't judge him on what he said or his behavior. He does get that from home. His wife, we even heard stories about when Meghan visited him in the UK and they were on a hunting trip, how she would scold his friends for some of their jokes and their behavior. He just misses the freedom of just being with people that love him no matter what, unconditional love, and don't judge him. But the idea that he misses that aspect of his life, she resents, and that is creating a real strain on their relationship. And he never wanted to be Hollywood famous. He loathes the idea of chasing stardom with Netflix and Spotify. I don't think that he enjoys that at all. But this is Meghan Markle making her dreams come true. But all he feels is that ridicule of failure in those departments. Live to Lead, what a joke. Heart of Invictus, who cares? The only commercial success they've had was when they were tearing into the British royal family, and they lost a lot of allies there.
Yes, he had an opportunity. He had a huge opportunity to prove that he could graft, that he could work hard. But actually, he's a bit like an institutionalized zoo animal. He only knows how to do one thing. Now, I don't say that in any sense feeling sorry for Prince Harry. I don't. He was warned about Meghan Markle. And look, he's exhausted now because being with someone like that drags you down. I mean, I've got so many stories, but one of the critical things I think for me to say, Kinsey, is that Meghan for a very long time hid aspects of her personality from Harry. So she would act very differently around the staff members, for example, than she would around Harry. So he certainly did have some sort of rose-tinted glasses, but you've also got to listen to people you trust. And you should trust your brother. You should trust your grandmother. You should trust your father. You should trust your oldest friends. He was warned. And so he chose to go down this path. And there are consequences to it that he is feeling. First, though, have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? Well, I recently saw a video he made, and I was shocked. He's in his 80s and still kicking butt and working out and staying active. What's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger. Her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/outspoken or by clicking in the link in the show notes below this video on YouTube and Rumble. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/outspoken and click on the link in the description below to watch the video now. You simply will not believe how simple it is. Just a reminder, the legendary Chuck Norris is a whopping 84 years old, and I have to be honest, he has more energy than me. He discovered he could create dramatic changes to his health, simply focusing on 3 things that sabotage our body as we age. So watch his method by clicking the link in the description box below, but I'll give it to you now as well, chuckdefense.com/outspoken, or you can also scan on the QR code on screen right now. But back to the show. Meanwhile, Kinsey, Katherine, the Princess of Wales, back to work probably quicker than a lot of people predicted, certainly than what I predicted. I mean, it wasn't long ago that I had Robert Jobson on Outspoken saying, actually, she's never going to return to a full roster of royal duties. And while that remains to be seen, we are seeing increasing signs that actually she is going to, because this week she posted on X about Baby Loss Awareness Week, saying it's such an important moment to support those who have experienced the devastation of baby loss, sending love, strength, and hope to anyone affected. #Wave of Light. But the critical thing in this post on X, Kinsey, is that it's signed off C, which means it's a personal post from Katherine. So we saw Southport last week, which was an incredible return to work. Are you heartened by how much we've seen of Katherine when we probably weren't expecting it?
Absolutely. I'm so uplifted to see her. And we're seeing her, we're only seeing her when she is really passionate about the topic, which to me, seeing her so often and knowing how passionate she is about both of these instances, I think that it's a really good sign that we might see more of her in the future. But, you know, I really was devastated earlier this year. Everything was so secretive, and that was their prerogative. They did not owe us anything, but it did cause so much anxiety. And I got in a lot of trouble online from royal watchers when I said that Photoshop photo was a nightmare. You guys, it was. They have plenty of people around them that should have caught that. And it's not criticism of Katherine. It's criticism of the team around them that should have caught that photo before it went out. But there was so much secrecy, and there was so much anxiety that I would have believed Robert Jobson that we weren't going to see her at least until next year, if ever again. You know, I would have, and based on the attacks online and the, want to talk about the most trolled person of 2024?
Yes.
It's the Princess of Wales.
Yes.
Based on that alone, if she told us she did not want to ever work again, I would have said, girl, I get it. Bless you. Go raise your babies. Because the stories that, and I know you know this, and I try not to get too far into them, but accusing her husband of murder, just going back to some of the debunked rumors about their relationship, the content that was circulating online was so vile that it is so brave of her to show her face today. It is so brave because we don't deserve it. You know, as a society, we don't deserve access to her anymore. We abused it earlier this year online, and I felt real sympathy for her there. Seeing her now is incredible, and it just shows you how strong she is physically and mentally.
Yeah, she's doing it her way now. That's the difference. And if anything positive, I think, came out of what happened earlier this year, it's the fact that actually she said to hell with it. I'm not going to play the media game. I'm going to take control of my image, of my reputation. This is interesting, though, Kinsey. What do you make of her, the whole People's Princess thing? This was the Sun. And I feel a little bit uncomfortable about it because you know how much I adored Princess Diana. I know you do too. And they're very different characters. And the thing is, Diana wanted her legacy to be as the people's princess. And so I just feel a bit uncomfortable about it because Katherine isn't asking to be called the people's princess. She's not encouraging the comparison to Diana.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I don't think that she necessarily wants it either. Maybe
No.
that's one of the reasons why we're not seeing her wear that iconic wedding ring right now. She's chosen this, eternity band. I don't think that it's almost like, oh, I think we had this conversation, how much it reminded us of Princess Diana, the amount of attention on the Princess of Wales at the time of her illness, how we were so worried about like TMZ hiding in the bushes outside of Windsor Castle, and how for a while the tabloid media got their you know what together when it came especially to the Wales family, giving them that distance, giving the children room to grow up. But through the secrecy of her illness, you saw all rules go out the window. And for Harry and Meghan to complain about the British tabloids, but for it to be an American blog hiding in the bushes at Windsor Castle kind of completely contradicts their argument. Actually, American media can be just as disgusting. So welcome to America, Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, much more,
I do think
much
that,
more. But
yeah.
actually, I don't say that as a criticism. Actually, I believe in the First Amendment. I think the American media has an absolute right to report what they want. But the point is, you're much, much more protected in the UK. And I was making arguments like that towards Harry and Meghan when they made the ludicrous decision to claim that they were moving because they wanted to avoid press scrutiny. I mean, that was totally delusional. Can we also just take a moment, Kinsey, to give some praise to Prince William, who is having quite a renaissance, I have to say. These pictures of William at the NFL event in London this week were just so great because he's looking handsome. He's looking healthy. There is something to say, and obviously he would never have wanted Katherine to experience what she experienced. Of course not. But I've spoken to friends of William and Katherine who say, actually, rather than drive William underground and make his work more difficult, he actually gained confidence and really enjoyed his solo activity and his solo work. And I think you can tell that. But I also think it's the beard. I think he's just so much more confident with the beard. Because personally, I know it's divided attention. I'm not sure where you stand on it, Kinsey, but personally, I think it looked great.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I see it in my dreams. I mean, literally, I see it in my dreams. I absolutely love it. No, I think that there was a hesitation. You know, we know there was a hesitation growing up for the responsibility on his shoulders, and I think that the illness of both his father and wife forced him to take on some of that responsibility earlier than he had anticipated, and he realized he's capable of it, and he realized that people really support him and want him to win and are behind him. And he's not just capable of it, he's great at it. And you're right, he's going to have some hiccups along the way. He can't be political. You know, he has to navigate certain waters very carefully, and he's going to learn through making some of these mistakes. But I think he's much more confident today about the responsibility that is inevitably going to be on his shoulders, because he was forced to take on some more action, and he was forced to be the spokesperson. He was forced to show a brave face. And what him and his family have gone through over the last year has been incredibly scary. And how courageous of them to continue to show up, because other people would just want to lie in bed and hide underneath the covers, and that's okay too, but he continued to show up.
And it worked for him. That's the critical thing. It worked for him. He got confidence from it. And I think it's really been brilliant to see. And yeah, I'm with you. Love the beard. Love the beard. Can we just talk for a moment, Kinsey, about this drumbeat? This is the serious news of the week, I guess. This growing drumbeat on both sides of the Atlantic towards reparations. So we saw Kamala Harris open up the idea of reparations for African Americans in the US. And then when it comes to the British royal family, it was the Prime Minister of Barbados. I, again, think Charles has made a bit of a mistake here in terms of accepting this conversation, because it's never going to happen. The UK can't afford it. It makes no sense. And now it's an issue that is on the table politically in the UK. So I want to show you a very strident response from Richard Tice, who is the deputy leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage's challenger party in the UK. And what Richard is saying is just going to be so popular with Brits.
Not a single penny in reparations. Because, look, the reality is, frankly, lots of other countries owe us.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the Royal Navy and the British taxpayer that stopped the slave trade over many years, about 170, 200 years ago, and we should be thanked for that. Not then said you've got to pay a bill. And there were vast legions of people along the way who made money out of the vile slave trade, including tribal leaders and rulers and kings in African countries. So let's just stop.
Let's just stop it. I couldn't agree more. But the problem is, Kinsey, it was Charles who did open up this discussion by saying 2 years ago that he thinks it's time for the discussion about slavery to come. Well, the discussion about slavery only leads us to one point.
Well, and I'm not saying that he's not sincere about this, but I do feel like some of this stems from feeling like you have to make up for somebody accusing you of racism, and that somebody being your daughter-in-law.
She's made it so much more difficult. We have to include her in the conversation, Kinsey. I think you're completely right to bring her up, because she empowered the Caribbean nations in particular to go down this path, both Jamaica and Barbados.
And all I have to say is I'm seeing it here. It feels like I don't truly think that Gavin Newsom is really considering reparations.
The California governor.
Yeah, our California governor. But he really wants you to like him, and he wants you to be on his side. So he might say some things that he doesn't truly believe in, because he wants, he's going to keep the carrot out in front of you. He entertained this idea for a very long time, created all of these societies and councils that were going to determine how much was owed. And when he saw the numbers, this is a state that's already bankrupt. When he saw the numbers, he thought there is no way that that's ever going to come to fruition, and backed out. It's just not it's not realistic for anybody to assume that this is going to happen. I do think, and we have this conversation a lot when we talk about Harry and Meghan, look forward. Let's focus on the future. Yes. We can learn from our mistakes, but let's not fixate on the past, because that issue is long gone. It's long over.
The British Empire brought lots of positives to the world. We can never forget that.
Yeah. No, I just don't think that it's a realistic conversation, and it's not worth engaging in. Yeah. And I feel like the reason that the king had to engage in it was because his family was accused of racism, and it rocked that family. And I do think that the ultimate objective was to destroy the monarchy when they said that.
Yes, indeed. And that's the problem here. That's where all of this ends up. If you go down this path, because if you talk about reparations, if you accept responsibility for things done hundreds of years ago, then actually all this empowers is the idea that there shouldn't be a monarchy whatsoever. So Charles has to be careful. William has to be careful. I think you're right to say a lot of this was a knee-jerk reaction to try and get some good publicity after the completely fanciful and fake claims by Meghan. Let's just be careful about the reparation discussion is all I would say. It needs to be shut down because it's not going anywhere. It's totally politically unpalatable, even for the left-wing Labour government in the UK. It is politically impossible, and it's made life more difficult for Charles in Australia, for example, and he doesn't really need that at the moment. But Kinsey, so great to have you back on Outspoken. I have to say, I am absolutely loving Unfiltered. That is Kinsey's YouTube channel. I'm going to put the link to it in the show notes. Lots of brilliant videos about the royal family each week, but I'm also loving what you're doing on the pop culture front, Kinsey. Loved your video about the whole Menendez brothers thing, because I've really got into that myself, I have to say. So you're doing absolutely fabulous work, but I so love having you here.
Well, my crush on Eric Menendez continues. Don't tell anyone.
Free the Menendez brothers. Yeah, yeah, that's where I'm at too. I'm on the Kim Kardashian side of this. Kinsey Schofield, so wonderful to speak to you.
Thank you. Love you, Dan.
Mwah. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.